Okay, we're going to straight to questions today with Coach Rodriguez. Great night.
So, Rich, start with your offense. I mean, we saw it 17 years ago. So the evolution of it, same? How is it different? Discuss your offense a little bit, what it's going to look like.
Yeah, it's a lot of the base elements are the same, I guess you would say. We still play with 11, so to speak, and use the quarterback a lot in the run game. The pass game has changed a little bit, a little bit more, a few different type of concepts and a few other things. I know I've said this, every year we kind of study what we do and then study some good stuff other people do and then see if it fits in without being too complicated. I think one of the problems too many coaches do, they try to be the smartest guy in the room, so to speak, and want to come up with all these elaborate schemes. And especially I tease my young coaches, especially them, because they got a lot of great ideas, but I was like, it's not what you call, it's what you can execute. So the biggest point of me with my offensive staff and the defensive staff is let's find out what we can execute, and then let's make sure we do a good job evaluating our guys too, because that's an important part of the spring.
One thing it looks like you've got a lot more of is tight ends. You didn't used to seemingly have as many.
Yeah.
So bigger part of your offense with tight ends?
That's probably that personnel-wise, without question, is the biggest change. We used to be a lot of 10 personnel and some occasional 11 personnel, and now we're 11 personnel, with one tight end in the game probably 70% of the time, and then sometimes 2 tight ends, and then sometimes 3 tight ends. So we have evolved to using those guys a lot more.
How'd it go today? Was it a typical first practice, or?
Yeah, I mean, my voice is kind of half there. Thank you, Mike. It was our team chaplain was there. He's probably praying for me right now. But no, it was. I think the intent was good. I think they worked pretty hard. I watched the film too. But we had, some pre-snap penalties. 4 or 5 of those on offense, and I'm used to going 4 or 5 practices without having one. So, we got to fix that up front with the big guys, and we're still feeling our way. The first practice of getting the timing down, but I like the effort from back where I was seeing it.
Is at this point in spring is liking the effort the biggest deal? I'd imagine
That's
you wouldn't expect
part
to be
of it.
clicking
It's I'd probably yell up too much at coaches too, but I think I just like yelling. But I think even though a lot of us have been together as a staff, this is the first practice with this whole staff. So there were some things we'll work out coaching wise and how practice runs, because I hate idle time, standing around in practice. We should, our time with I tell our coaches the most valuable time of our day is with our players, whether it's in a meeting or at practice. And, that time that we have with our guys, we got to make sure we're really, really ready for them, and they're not waiting on us, so to speak. So I thought we did okay with that from coaching, but I think we'll be a lot better with the next practice.
Rich, how did your quarterbacks handle you behind them for practice? It's probably a new deal for them.
Oh, I don't know if it is. I mean, I would think most of the time they have. Probably it's usually just the quarterback coach yelling at them. But I've got Rhett, who's probably the opposite of me personality-wise. He's kind of the calm, more. He'll say what he does, but he's not the same kind of personality, And I tell all the coaches, you got to coach to their personality. Some guys are loud, some guys are quiet. I'm on the loud side, he's on the quieter side. But so I think they get a little good cop, bad cop stuff with Rhett and I. But he's done a great job with them, and I like our quarterback room from a conscientious standpoint. I mean, those guys really are eager. I think of all the positions we have, everybody always worries about the quarterback position. I know I said this the other day. I feel really good about the quarterback room, real good. So we'll be okay there.
How did your use of the tight end evolve, over time? What made you want to stick it in there and kind of make it real clear?
Well, I think part of it is we wanted to stay at a tempo and then be able to use the tight end in different ways in the run game. So we thought we could get, it was kind of shifting to where you could get those 240, 250-pound guys that could play in space. Before you just, they were big blocker types, and you never split them out. Like our tight ends will be split out as much or more than they are in tight. So you're seeing a lot more of those guys, whether it's the 7-on-7s in high school or what have you. But it's certainly have changed. I won't say changed. It's given us a different dimension offensively, but what it's also allowed us to do is play with the tempo that we want at times.
I know it's early, but are you seeing the toughness that you're looking for that's been such a hallmark of your program for so long?
Yeah, I don't know if I can see it today. Again, I'll watch the film. But you're in shorts and it's all tag. You got to be smart with it. And I don't even know if we can answer that throughout the whole spring, because we'll go live, but it's not like live against an opponent. But I think we could tell something, in some of the padded days. I don't know if we can tell much anything on the short days. I mean, you can see some mental toughness if they get a little tired, and we do some drills that are up-tempo drills and but they're not in shape either. I tell our guys, our strength staff, I think, has done a good job, but they're not in the shape they're going to be in August. So they'll get a little tired now.
Three practices of install and then repeat. How do you go about that?
No, I know that's kind of the air raid stuff. They do 3 and then they repeat the 3. Then they do. We kind of, we kind of got a different methodology with that. We'll, Zach on defense. I think he already had like 10 blitzes in today. Jeez, I'm about to tell him to slow down a little bit. Heck, the first day of practice, we don't need to have all these exotic blitzes, but. Offensively, we've got a lot of stuff in. We're also trying to find out what our guys do well. And so we're probably putting too much stuff in because we're trying to evaluate like what routes we run well, what routes we throw well, and all that. But we've got plenty of stuff on offense in already on the first day.
Expanding on that a little bit, figuring out what people can do well. Is that just in 11 on 11, or can you find out some of those things in individual
Now, we do
skills?
one-on-ones too. We got to have a fraction, not a fraction, but a portion of every practice has to be geared just toward evaluation. Like we're just doing drills, offense against defense, because you can't do any of that until practice. So we're doing some one-on-ones and 2-on-2s and things like that every day. And that's just for evaluation purposes. And we'll do even more of that when the pads come on.
Is the evaluation process any tougher because everybody is so brand new? I mean, so many new guys coming in, transfers.
Yeah, they're all new to us because it's new staff. But like I said, with 1 or 2 full-time returning starters, I mean, there's a whole lot of newness, I guess. A whole lot of evaluations going on, and athletically, I think we're okay. But there's still some spots I think that they're still, we've got to answer either through the spring or through the next portal period. But my biggest, that's not a worry, but, what's going to happen is they cut the roster to 105 and we've got to cut 20 or 25 guys. That's going to be a really hard deal because there's going to be a lot of guys that have worked hard enough to earn a spot, and we're just not going to be able to have that. So that it's going to make it competitive, I think, until that time comes, but I hope that's not the case. I hope they grandfather the returning players in, and so those kids don't get screwed.
Coach, any update on running back coach situation? How's that working during practice?
Yeah, I got Travis Trickett. Travis is kind of floating around in several positions on the offense, and then Noel Devine's there as well, so we're covered. But I'll probably try to hire a running back coach within a week, probably.
Any thoughts on outside or inside? Could that be an internal promotion or?
It's wide open. I have some guys in mind, but I'll be able to find a good coach.
Is that Travis's role to kind of be that floater to kind of enhance?
Yeah, it's kind of helped me. You had to kind of help all the things. And Travis is, even though was in the offense, but it was a long time ago. So, but he's a really sharp guy, and so he's kind of like I'm just kind of plugging him in different spots, and he's helping there. But the good part about it, all the offensive coaches have been in the system other than Blaine, and Blaine Stewart is a really good coach, a sharp guy, learned really quickly. So there's not as much, learning from the coaching scheme standpoint. The same way on defense, that the guys that a couple of those guys have worked with Coach Alley before, so there's not that as much newness there either.
Any injuries that you're dealing with from?
Oh,
maybe-
there's about, I don't know,
Yeah.
there might be 10, I don't know how many guys, they're in yellow we put them in yellow jerseys. There's probably 9 or 10 guys over there on the bike, and they stay busy all practice doing stuff with the strength staff, but there's at 9 or 10 of them. That's the hard part, is some of them aren't gonna be here or not be able to go all spring, and so how do I evaluate them, right? So that's gonna be part.
25 years later, are you reborn now and starting over again, reborn, or is it the same old stuff?
Yes and no. I think I know it kind of sounds like Coach Big Bob, but I do think I'm, I guess a little. I don't know, smarter is the right word, but a more knowledgeable coach now than I was then, and in a lot of ways, not just schemes and how we practice, how we go about recruiting, our development part of it, and I'm gonna be smarter next year. I'm gonna, there's so much easier to nowadays to get information, whether it's film or ideas, or because with there's social media, there's a negative, but there's also a lot of positive stuff. You can look on Twitter and learn stuff about coaching. Not all of it is fits what you do, but there's stuff out there. And plus, I love talking ball, talking to coaches, and trying to learn every year. So I guess to answer your question, I would think, I don't know if want to say this is a fresh start, because it hasn't been like, the last 3 years at Jack State. I was just kind of like laying around. I mean, we took a 1AA program to Division I and worked our tails off and got to win a championship and took a couple bowl games. But that was a great experience, and that helped me learn. But I think all the experiences, places I went from out in the desert to the bayou to Mississippi to the hills of Alabama, and then finally back home. So I think it's funny when I looked at, well, I think it was different. Raquel was showing me media guy. They still have them, right? Media guys, with the pictures on there, and looking at our staff, the staff that I had, and I had a really good staff, but there wasn't like 40 of them like there is now. I got to learn all their names. Everybody out there, I got GAs and analysts for an analyst, and it's all good. Where they're doing a great job, and we need them. But we didn't have nearly as many coaches back then. You remember that? We just had a couple GAs and a couple one administrator, and what was the name of what were they called then? They weren't analysts then. Restricted earnings or stuff. It was like, how do we do it? How did we do it back then? I don't know. It seems like we're doing it better now.
How, as much smarter as you are now, we presume, how did you manage to accomplish what you accomplished in 7 years?
Yeah. I think back then everybody was. I think the one part that was different. I don't say different, but maybe it was different. That everybody was kind of like the same. In other words, you was only allowed like 4 GAs. You wasn't allowed all these coaches, and that's all a great thing. I think it's great now, but you didn't have, a roster of $20 million roster compared to a $3 million roster. I mean, everybody was on 85 full scholarships, or back then it might have been 95. I don't know what it was back then. So it was, I don't want to say easier to compete, but you were closer. The only thing you'd fight for would be like, I want to fight for an indoor building. Oh, we had an indoor building when I was here. We want to fight for a new locker room, some other stuff. Well, hell, I had to leave to get that done, right? We left it, man, they put $50 million in this deal. This is like, shoot, this is pretty nice, all this stuff we got. And then the things you do for the staff, all that's happening. So it's I wouldn't say it's easier now because there's different challenges. But whatever the rules are, our coaches are supposed to, whenever the goalposts move, you move with them. Whatever the rules are, you do it the best you can to it. So I think now there's a bigger gap in between what some people commit football and what others don't. I'm fortunate. West Virginia, we're committed to being a highly successful Division I Power 4 program. And so we're in a good spot. The group of fives that battle for everything you get. Trust me, I did that, and we battle for everything you get. And there's some, I guess, reward to doing that and some feel good about doing that. But it's nice to be one of the halves, even though we may not have all the halves that some other people have. We're in a good spot.
What do you want to get accomplished in the next couple of practices, and where do you want to see your team over this next few?
Well, two things. First off, we got to teach our guys as much as we can about our not scheme is part of it, but techniques. And there's a lot of young players out there, just being a better football player and other stuff with that. And then we got to evaluate. Today I'll watch the whole team period with the whole staff, and that'll take probably 2 hours and at least, because we'll watch the whole film. So, because we got to really do a good job of evaluating our guys each and every day and see who the guys are that we think we can win with. And I hope we have 2 guys at every position that's good enough to win with. I like to have 3 guys at every position. Inevitably, I don't know if you'll have that many, but we're gonna figure that out by the end of the spring.
When do you go full pads? When does that start?
Saturday.
Saturday.
You have just a number of guys who could play different positions. Just at this stage, how are you trying to figure out who's an inside receiver, an outside receiver, a guard, a tackle, and a tackle?
Yeah, the guard tackle stuff is for us. There's not as much difference. So this guy's a tackle, this guy's a guard. Our system's a little different. So, there's not as much. You could probably hide a guy that's less athletic at guard than you can at tackle. That'd be the only difference. But our inside receivers and outside receivers is that's good. I think sometimes, and I've been guilty of this. You kind of mark a guy as an outside guy, and you don't give him reps on the inside, and that's a mistake. I think we have to make sure. I want all our wideouts to learn all our 4 wideout positions, and that will take probably through the summer before that can happen. But that's part of what you're thinking. I think I've been guilty of that. Okay, this guy's a taller guy. He's an outside receiver. This guy's a shorter guy. He's an inside receiver, and I think we make a mistake not teaching them all the spots. So that's what we'll do this spring and summer.
Like nickel and corner may not be the same. Corner and nickel.
Yeah, the nickel is. If it depends on what the scheme is. If you're gonna play a lot of man coverage, or what you're gonna do with that nickel. For us, our nickel is kind of a hybrid DB / outside linebacker type of guy. So he's probably got to be a little bit more physical. And you got different packages where you're going to put your best man-to-man guys in. But we'll play man. Everybody's got to play man. But if we can play man and play man without a lot of help behind them, then you're going to be able to do what you want. And we're doing man coverage every day, just to see who can do it.
Coach, what's the vibe, I guess, been of having Jaheim around, and Jaheim the last week or so, especially after Chad's departure? You have any conversation with him?
No, coaches come and go. These guys, our guys, they're going to get attached to a position coach, but hell, they're going to,
It's his first time going through it, I guess.
Yeah, hell, if all these guys aspire to be pro guys, they're going to probably change position coaches every 1 year or 2. And their teammates change it. So in this day and age of transfer portal, they're getting new teammates. Coaches are in portals too, I guess. They're getting new coaches. There's a lot of movement, so much so that that's, I guess, like I said, I got to accept that's part of our deal now. Coaches are moving, and I've been very lucky to have some guys that have been really loyal and stayed around. But like I said, I have no. He's a veteran guy, a really good player, and he's banged up right now, with his knee, but he'll be fine. But I'm excited about what he can do. I think he can have a great season. We've got to make sure. I like to have at least 3 running backs that we feel that we're ready to win with, and we'll see where that shakes out at the end of spring.
How was today for you? Were you able to give yourself at least a second to just kind of let it soak in?
No, hell, no. Not like the style department is like, okay, 5 minutes, not 5 minutes, 15 seconds in, I'm yelling at somebody like an idiot. I don't even know, probably something over nothing. But it's kind of like, I don't know, Raquel could probably tell you, it's almost like a switch gets flipped, you know what I mean? It's like you go in there and it could be like a bomb going off behind me or whatever, 5-car crash and I wouldn't even know it because I'm just looking right ahead, getting ready to yell at the quarterbacks. So it's not, yeah, I'm like, it's a whole different, that's never changed. It's the same whether it's game or practice. It's like everything else is, I don't know what's going on.
Is
But
that tunnel vision something that you think's helped you throughout your career, just kind of being able to have that focus?
yeah, I kind of like, I don't know if it's not been intentional. It's just the way it is. I mean, they're keeping, like people say about competitiveness or whatever. I mean, if they're keeping score, we're trying to whip your ass. You know, that's kind of the way it is. I mean, that if I had guys on the team that ain't got that mentality, they ain't gonna last. You know what I mean? The guys that are non-competitive, they ain't gonna make it. You know what I mean? Now that doesn't make them a bad person. I just don't want. I mean, I want guys that'll crawl over top of people to win. You know, I mean, that's just, you know, if you're not a competitive guy, you're going to stand out in the wrong way.
Is that a mentality you can teach, or is that something that's just so innate that you have to?
I think so. I mean, I don't know if you teach it or you just kind of mandate it, and then you live by it. You know, it's like something like hard edge, and ain't like something, you know, well, I'll wake up tomorrow and have a hard edge mentality, and then maybe on Thursday I'll see how I feel, and then, you know, then we'll see what happens on Friday. Well, that ain't the way it once you get it, and you have it, and, you know, but when you don't have it and everybody else around you has it, then you kind of stand out in the wrong way. You know what I mean? I've been blessed, guys, that when we had success wherever it was, here or whatever, it was because we had really, really good players that had that kind of competitive, hard-edged mentality. And once I tell them, once they get it, they kind of have it forever. It's like, you know, when we talk about Pat McAfee, I mean, Pat McAfee had that as a specialist, and he's had it in his career as a pro player and as his career with the media. I mean, Pat works his tail off, but he gonna outwork people, and he's got that mentality. He's like, I'm gonna be the best guy, you know, to analyze this that there is, and it's fun to watch him have that. And I've been blessed to have a lot of guys have that mentality.
How much of what you do you're going to mold to the guys that you have, and how much what you have or you're going to mold to what you want to do?
No, I ain't molding to them. Shit. I mean, I shouldn't cuss. I mean, the culture is
schematically.
I mean, what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, schematically, yeah. You know, what play, like you don't want to, this guy can't run this route, and you keep trying to teach him that route, and then you might have figured like, gee whiz, that's not very smart. He runs this route better than that route. So you got to gear that to him. Or if you're asking this guy to reach a 3 technique all the time up front on the offensive line, he ain't never going to reach that 3 technique, you know, so that's not very smart to make him keep doing that. So, you know, you gotta find what your guys do well. And that's to answer your question. But the mentality of the culture, everybody talks about culture. You know, we got the certain culture, but do they live it and make sure everybody adheres to it every day, all day, every time, and every guy? Not just something. Not on this guy now. Don't coach him hard because, you know, he'll get upset and he'll go home and, well, hell, that ain't the guy we want. Good players want to be coached, and we're going to coach them all.
We have time for one more question.
Rich, just the positional flexibility, guys learn 4 spots, defensive backs who can move around. As you're talking about cutting down to 105, that's valuable, but is it more so now just because you can fit so many holes?
Yeah, that's a very good point. You're going to have players like receivers that have to learn play all 4 positions. You hopefully get a running backs that can play in the slot and play in the backfield. You know, your O-lineman, for instance, you know, you might usually carry 20 and maybe 16, 17 on scholarship. That number may stay the same, but you're going to have more guys that got to be able to play center and tackles, defensive tackles playing defensive ends. So, no, there is no question. And 105 seems like a lot, but, you know, 7 or 8 of them are specialists, and then you got to have probably 5 or 6 quarterbacks at least. And so when you look down on this, everybody says, well, the NFL only has 53, but, you know, as soon as somebody gets hurt, they got somebody on a practice squad to pull up, or they can get somebody off the street and free agency and pull up. We can't do that. Once you lose a guy, whatever. So it's a different challenge, and so we'll manage it like everybody else.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay.
Next up is Thursday at noon.
Thursday, should we say?